Hey Ingrid, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining me today. I just wanted to introduce you to my audience. And I know that we met recently at a networking event, and it was really fun connecting with you.
hmm
So, for everyone watching, this is Ingrid Vaicius, and she is a health coach. She has been working in the health and wellness area for quite a while. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Ingrid, so people can get
Of
to
course.
know you?
Perfect. So, my name's Ingrid. I am a health and wellness coach. I've been doing this for about 3 years, and I work primarily with women, helping them avoid burnout so that they can actually live a life that they love, both if they work or if they don't, but like be able to have a fulfilling life both in work and outside of work, and feel good, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally, so that they can actually be successful for a really long time to come.
Awesome. We really need that right now.
No,
Um,
there's so much burnout.
and my understanding is you work with individuals as well as doing like corporate wellness programs. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. So I have my one-on-one client. I'm developing a group program, and I also work with different organizations. So we look at health and wellness from the perspective of like, what can I do individually? But my ultimate goal is to have organizations look at not only how they can provide support to their staff, which is very important, but how we can change organizational culture so that burnout is not necessarily a given or something that we assume everyone will have at some point or other in their career. So it's about changing corporate mentality and how do we look at burnout, what can we do as individuals, right, to help ourselves, but how does that translate into the larger organizations and our role as leaders.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I was really interested in talking to you today about work-life balance because I know
Mhm.
we had a little discussion and you have a really different approach to, how to approach this elusive work-life balance. Can you
Mhm.
tell everyone watching like what are your recommendations on, how to find some kind of balance when you have a really busy work life, but you also have a lot of family obligations, or you just want to feel good about the
Mhm.
time that you have off of work.
Exactly. So a few years ago, I read this book, and it's called Restore Yourself, and it's written by Edie Greenblatt. And she had this explanation about work-life balance, right? And the assumption that we have, or a lot of people have, is that we go to work until Friday, and then Friday rolls around, and that's when life begins. That's when things are good and we're happy. So we basically trudge through the week. We're not necessarily in a good place. And then Friday rolls around and we're super excited. And that's where life begins. That's where we have fun. And her idea, it totally resonated with me, is that there's a reason we got into the job we got into, right? There was some reason, and there are some things about that job, that position that we loved and that we loved doing, and we do it. And that's why we wanted to do it. And along the way, things happen, right? We all know that. We end up taking on more responsibilities. We end up spending a lot of time doing the things that don't really come naturally to us or we love. And so we begin to have this love-hate relationship with our job. And so what I try to look at is what do you love about the job? Why did you get into it? And why are you not there anymore? And is it a matter of are you doing things that you were not part of your responsibilities and suddenly got tacked on for whatever reason? And so it becomes a conversation around, what am I good at? What do I love? What keeps me going in this job? And how do I get myself to do that? And sometimes it becomes by knowing myself, then it allows me as a leader to hire people within my field that might actually be able to support me to do the things that I don't love to do or that I'm not good at. Because usually when we're not good at something, it takes us longer to get it done. And then we end up spending so much time on it that we really don't get to do the things we love. And so by flipping the switch and looking at things this way, then what happens is that we actually find joy in our job again, and we feel fulfilled and we're energized because we're doing the things we love. And so we have a great week and a fulfilling work life. And then when Friday rolls around, we also can have a ton of fun with our personal life, and really feel like we don't get the Sunday scaries, that all aspects of our lives feel good and feel like they're flowing.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you saying that. And I think it's a really wise approach to take. Because like, there's the saying that, entrepreneurs will work 80 hours a week just so we don't have to work a job we don't like. That's 40 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that does happen. And certainly there are many entrepreneurs that just, end up working 80 hours and liking most of it. But I think, most people, the people that are in my audience are entrepreneurs and small business owners. And, we just get stuck doing a lot of things that we don't like to do. And it's because we feel we have to do it, or we don't want to spend money hiring people. And I just like what you said about, finding out what you most like to do, and then just finding ways to delegate, and like making sure that most of your plate is full with things that really bring you joy. Because
I feel like sorry, go ahead. No, that I'm an entrepreneur myself. And like you just said, I feel like at one point I was doing all of these things that I'm like, oh, okay, I really like doing this, but I'm ending doing like this that I don't love, or that I'm not particularly good at. And so for me, it's also been like this work in progress of like, okay, what can I like hand out to other people? Where can I ask help? And I understand, like, sometimes it's like, well, we don't have the money, right? We're figuring it out. We're getting to that place where we have a consistent income. But what I'm surprised at is how many times we don't ask for help. From other entrepreneurs, from peers, right? Things that may seem complicated or hard for us may come naturally for other people who are doing the same thing that we are doing. So I feel like it doesn't always need to be an expense. It can also simply mean having a conversation with someone and saying, how do you go about this? Can we brainstorm? How can I make my life more efficient? And asking for help is really a good thing. As entrepreneurs, when we're on a tight budget or we're just starting, we don't want to spend more money on hiring help or having someone help us because it is an extra expense that we might not be able to afford. But what I've found is that like getting together with peers, having conversations, asking for help, we're not all built the same way. The things that come naturally to us may not come naturally to other people. So if we can ask for help, even just the brainstorming about how you do it and maybe asking someone to help you out with it will make your life easier. Or just having a conversation, because I do feel like entrepreneurs, sometimes we're like sitting here behind our desk by ourselves trying to figure it all out, when what we do have is a wealth of like information around us and people that are willing to help because they're probably going through the same thing and at some point or another needed the help.
Yeah. And what I hear you saying is like, we really have to focus on the benefits. So I know, asking for help might just seem hard for a number of reasons, but also just investing in hiring someone, whether it's part-time or they work freelance. Sometimes there can be a really big block for entrepreneurs. I know I've had that block for myself. But then when I look at like what I'm spending most of my day doing, and I think, wouldn't it be great if I could just get that off my plate? And like a lot of this stuff, I know I can do it. And I feel like just the training process is going to take so long. And then you start to think about the supervising, like, well, what if that person doesn't really know what to do? Like I hire the wrong person, or, just so many things go through your head. But I feel like, especially the money part, it seems like that blocks a lot of entrepreneurs of like, well, how am I going to justify this? Is there going to be some kind of return on investment? And I would say, tell me if you agree with this, like the return on investment is the benefit of just being able to do what you love to do, which is why you got into business in the first place. And that it activates the law of attraction. Right? Like that, frees up you to be in your genius zone and then do those things that it might not seem like it now because you're not in that space. But when you get there, then you start attracting all the things that you wanted to attract in the first place.
For sure. And I feel like we get stuck on this notion that it has to be like a long-term commitment. And one of the things that was most useful to me was like, I hired someone, a virtual assistant for a specific project. So if you're launching a program, if you want someone just to like deal with like creating the list, putting everything in the email portion of it, because they'll do it really quickly. And it's really for the time that they spent and the time that you gain to be able to focus on that program, getting to people, talking to them, getting them to sign up, going to do workshops, which for me is something that I love. But if I'm stuck trying to like figure out the website and make sure that MailChimp is right and all those things, sure, I can do it and I can figure it out. It's not what I love to do and it's going to take a lot longer, but I hire someone just for a project specific basis for a few hours. They get it done in like a fraction of the time. And then I have like hours of my day to actually do what I want to do. So I feel like that's been my lesson. I don't have someone working with me constantly, but if I do have a project or a program launch or something that needs to happen, then I just hire them for that specific project for a set amount of hours.
Yeah.
And it really is a huge return on your investment.
That's awesome. So are there any other tips? I feel like some entrepreneurs might have heard what we're talking about before, but is there anything else that you can think of that like just might spark people to think differently about work-life balance?
I mean, I think to me, it's like a lot of it comes from the idea that maybe someone can't do it like we do it, or there are no other options. And I love giving the example when I do workshops about, for example, a meal, right? How many components? Think of a meal as your like department, say, and you're like the leader or the president of this department, and your role and what you love to do is meal prep. You love making the meal, right? But you hate washing the dishes and dealing with cleanup or like setting the table. That's just not your thing. So within this food department, there are all these tasks, right? And you don't have to do the meal prep. You don't have to wash the dishes and set the table. You need to find someone in that room that says, who loves to wash the dishes and hates to do the meal prep? And I guarantee you there'll be someone there who will be able to be like, yeah, I'll wash the dishes any day of the week because I hate the meal prep and the cooking part of it. So I love to make people think about like, we all have the skill set. We all have like this passion for me, in my case, it's health and wellness, right? And helping people avoid burnout. But I'm not good, or I don't love every aspect of like health and wellness. So it's how do I surround myself with people who can support me and who play up to my weaknesses, right? Because then I'm much more successful and we're both much more successful. So I like, that's the thing for me. It's like, if you can find someone that supports you on the things that are not your strong suit or that you don't love, then whatever you do, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you work in an office and have a full-time job, things will be more pleasant and you will find joy in the work that you're doing, which will inevitably mean that you find joy in also your life outside and inside of work, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I just think that we've got to get rid of that word solopreneur, because it seems such a myth that like you can even build a business without other people. Of course you can, It's not just you working with your clients. Like, in order to really serve your clients, I feel like, people do need to have that team that's doing all the different roles that support that one mission. And I love that catering analogy, or meal prep.
Meal prep, yeah.
Because like it made me think I used to work in catering a long time ago, when I was first getting started in video production. And man, like I just remember all the different roles, all the different people. And one analogy we use is, video production, filmmaking is a team sport. And it traditionally always has been. I mean, if you look at all the credits on a TV show or the film, you see like how many different people have their hands in like one production. And, I always give the analogy of like building a house. So like I would never think of going out and building a house by myself. I mean, if I was that audacious, I would certainly like be working with an architect, you know, in the beginning. But I mean, to think of building a house by yourself is ridiculous. And that's really what we do in video production, you know, all of the different stages. And at each of those stages, many, many people have to be involved. So I'm still learning all of this, and I really hope all this information is helpful to my audience, entrepreneurs. I hope all of you will, you know, take this really to heart and just start thinking about like ways that you can delegate, ways that you can get stuff off your plate, and just start investing monetarily. Like, you know, how can you invest, you know, just to bring more joy to your life and, you know, really enjoy your work again.
Exactly. And even finding support, because I feel like even if at this point a person is not in the place where like investing monetarily in something is just not a reality, if you're just starting out, I think one of the most important things is finding support and helping yourself be accountable. So find a peer, find someone. The best thing that I did when I was starting was find a peer, someone who's in similar situation. And literally to this day, we meet quarterly. We look at our goals. We look at what we've done. We figure out where we're stuck, and we brainstorm for each other, because even that is enough to get some of the heads, like brain space, like freed up so that you can actually focus on getting it done, right? And when you brainstorm with someone or have that in and of itself can be life-changing. So even if you don't have the financial means at this point, like I do encourage you to look for support, however that looks like for you, because that is super helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's so many ways to find it these days with all the social media channels. I mean, you know, just put it out on your network, like on your personal page, or get in a Facebook group. Like, yeah, there's just so many ways to, you know, put it out there. And, you know, someone might not be the right fit for you. You have to I would say, try it out on a temporary basis. But yeah, in this day and age, like, you know, we never have to feel isolated. There's social media that we have access to. And we can find people to connect with. You could do a Zoom call with them, like we're doing here, or just, you know, if they're local, meet in person. But I really love that. That's a really great tip. So I think we got to wrap up, but I really appreciate you coming today, Ingrid. And I think this is a lot of valuable information that people can really implement into their business. So
awesome. Thanks for having me. It was wonderful.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.